Hey guys, Vinny Merchandani here. Pleasure to have Marty Groover, who's a partner at C5MI, calling today from his place in wonderful South Carolina. I envy that part of the world. Has some great food. So, Marty, welcome aboard. Why don't you spend a minute or two describing yourself, your background? I know you have a lot of manufacturing, a lot of Navy and big process, big project experience. So, introduce yourself.
Hey, Vinny, thanks for having me on. Yeah, my name is Marty Groover. I'm a partner for C5MI. I'm a retired Navy officer. I spent 21 years in the Navy, and I was working on technology. I didn't know it was Industry 4.0 technology at the time, but definitely saw the future. I call myself Marty McFly sometimes because I've already seen the predictive maintenance, and I had that. I worked on weapon systems, and it was amazing because you could never go up to the captain and say, "I don't know why that missile didn't shoot, sir." So I did reliability center maintenance for a lot of years. And I also used SAP in the Navy and learned a lot about manufacturing in my last role before I joined Caterpillar. Worked at Caterpillar for about 12 years, and I learned manufacturing, Caterpillar production system, and then I deployed SAP ERP. Complained about it enough, they put me in charge of it for the whole corporation deploying it, which sometimes you got to be careful what you complain about. You might ask you to fix it. Anyway, fast forward, and we started some fun projects called Live Factory, and we did about 8 of them in one factory at Caterpillar. And then I got the bug, and I said, we need to do this for other companies. So we started C5MI, which stands for Command, Control, Computers, Communication, and Collaboration, Management Insights. And that's definitely from the Navy. But what my business does is we do digital manufacturing, enterprise asset management. We also have a thing called operational intelligence, and then pure supply chain and manufacturing processes. So really what we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We know we can do it better. And we do this by reducing complexity, by converging people, process, and technology into a single trusted system of truth we like to call a common operational picture. And so glad to be here today. Looking forward to talk to these great topics you have for me lined up.
Well, Marty, so we have seen some amazing acrobatics in manufacturing, right? I mean, the auto companies jumping into medical ventilators, 3M quadrupling capacity overnight. We're seeing logistics, last mile, drive-through, all kinds of amazing acrobatics, of course, in healthcare and banking with the PPP loans and so on. Tell me about some of the acrobatics you've seen in the last couple of months, especially in the manufacturing sector.
Yeah, I think when you start looking at what companies are trying to do now and trying to ensure their supply chains, it's a whole new world now because of the problems that we have, the offshoring. Just think companies out there that make these masks are holding their inventory and they're not shipping them out to other companies. That whole global piece is falling apart. So companies are starting to look now at their supply chains. And I think that's where they're all spending their time. How do I even go down to level 1, level 2 raw material and make sure I have assurance of supply? And then all you have to do is look at the Amazon vehicles in your neighborhood, the FedEx and the UPS trucks. They are driving and running out of those trucks as fast as they can. It's a whole new e-commerce world that's going to drive a lot of things for us. So it's really interesting right now to see it.
What are you hearing from your colleagues in the Navy? Anything unclassified you can talk about?
Well, I think the dynamics of the world right now are kind of interesting. And I think although we are on a war footing for sure. I live near a Marine Corps Air Base, and there's definitely been a lot more fighter jet training and stuff going on lately. So I think that, everybody's heightened the level of security for sure. And I think with the War Powers Act, if you think about what happened after World War II, where did a lot of efficiency happen in manufacturing? Kind of the same thing, right? Ford started building tanks. Chrysler built airplanes. Everybody built something different. I mean, I used to see when I first joined the Navy, Singer sewing machines made 45 caliber pistols. We still had some. So I think the same thing is kind of happening now. How do we shift, our manufacturing to meet the needs that we have right here at home?
We're talking about that, not only are I guess the barriers to entry to different verticals are changing because the government's saying you can, in healthcare, they're allowing people to do telemedicine, which you couldn't 3 months ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So And then the other thing, as you mentioned, the supply chains. So the sentiment certainly seems to be bring it back home. Do you think it's politics? Do you think it's going to be reality? And, how are our, I mean, where are we going to get the manufacturing talent from? Because, it's something we've short for the last couple of decades. So tell me how realistic it is, all this talk about bring it back home.
Well, I think that continent of consumption is going to win the day, right? Long supply chains, we already know, we're going to feel some gappy problems this summer, even after everything kind of goes back to normal, because supply chains have been disrupted. And sometimes you don't feel those for a while. I think continent of consumption will drive changes. I think in a way, the offshoring was a good thing for us, because now we don't, it's sort of like after the Cold War, the Soviets didn't have to maintain that Cold War Navy anymore. They just let it all rust and sold it to other people and built new stuff. They could build from the ground up. Well, if you don't have to maintain an existing infrastructure and you can build from the ground up, now you can reimagine how to build manufacturing where you don't need as many people, but also, especially with the safety piece that we need now, you don't want big factories with thousands of people working together. You probably want more distributed manufacturing to better tie up with the Amazon effect that's happened, and utilizing Industry 4.0 to automate as much as you can. You can really make smaller, maybe not micro factories, but the idea is there, distributed manufacturing, and then you plan production. It really starts driving a whole different paradigm.
So talk about the digital factory. So you expect a lot more automation, a lot more 3D printing, a lot more robotics.
I mean, the robotics and all that's great. To me, the digital twin is going to be the real catalyst for a lot of other things. I mean, we've had robotics for a while. We've had some of these other things. I'm for sure the 3D printing is going to come along. It is. I mean, they're making aircraft parts. The Navy's buying it like crazy, because then they don't have to carry all these parts on a ship, which burns fuel. But what I really see is the data piece. When Steve Jobs stood up in 2007 and said, I made three things into one here. This piece right here, what I can do in my personal life, why can't I do that in my factory? I should be able to just see what's going on live. And I really believe that digital manufacturing, that's where it's going to come in. You're going to have a self-compensating supply chain that's fully condition-based monitored. And I think once you have that, now you're going to take the man out of the loop. We changed air warfare after Vietnam because the man could not track supersonic missiles anymore. Our ships got hit. They had to build these new radar systems where the man was out of the loop. The man only did what he needed to do by exception. And I think what's going to happen now is the supply chain will be the same thing. Digital manufacturing, everything will be like sensorized, and you'll know exactly what you want. You'll build doctrine in the systems, and it will make decisions and self-compensate where you have less spikes. It's almost like a ship at sea that thing's on a gimbal, right? It senses the movement and stabilizes things. I think you're going to see that going forward. And that, I think, is, the robotics and all that's great, but that's really where Industry 4.0 is going to win for us.
So what does that mean for the blue collar worker? A different type of skill, or no blue collar work?
I think it will be a different skill. I think there'll still be blue collar works, because I've worked with robot. There's only so much a robot can do, but there's predictions we've been looking at. There's going to be 3 or 4 million jobs gaps in manufacturing by 2025 anyway. They were predicting before this. So it's not like you're taking a job away from somebody. I just don't think that's where people want to work these days, and it's going to change. Now, that being said, it's going to be a new hybrid, because now you're going to have a machine and a system on top of the machine, sort of like what we had in the military. And you're going to have an operator technician. They're going to have to know how that machine works. They're going to have to know how it manufactures and how to maintain it using intelligence and predictive modeling and remote maintenance practices. But yeah, it's definitely going to change. You're not just going to either be, someone operating it or someone maintaining it. I think you're going to have a hybrid.
So what does that mean from a U.S. workforce? Are we going to have to reorient the young to make this more sexy?
I think the digital natives, and what I've seen in the projects that I have done, the digital natives, when you give them this live data, you can't even imagine what they do. And I think inherently they understand what to do with the data once they have it in their hands. I've seen some amazing things happen when I gave them the Play-Doh and enough data to do stuff with it. All of a sudden, they've solved all these problems that we knew we had for a long time. You know, I wish we had more time. I could tell you some really cool stories, but I think what you're going to see is, I think our collegiate system is broken anyway, to be quite honest. I think this coronavirus is starting to show the cracks on it. And I think you're going to see us go back to more of something in the middle where people, you don't have to have a 4-year degree to still get that kind of outcome. You're going to get a little bit different.
Trade school model.
Yep. I think that's going to be it, but it's going to be very technical.
Yeah. Yeah. And very data oriented, right? A lot of computer skills too.
Yep.
You mentioned you've been doing a lot of work in predictive maintenance, enterprise asset management. Talk a little bit about that. What opportunities post-COVID do you see with that?
I see maintenance as a service. So one of the things I've done recently, since I started this business, I have 2 registered trademarks. One is for Live Factory, because I believe live is the way it's going to be. The other one is for Digital Reliability Center Maintenance. So I have a registered trademark for that. Going forward, maintenance as a service, categorizing equipment, doing failure mode effect analysis on it, and then using predictive maintenance to have that full loop digitally is going to be the way of the world. And we're doing that now with several customers, been very successful.
Any sector in particular, or?
Right now I'm in industrial manufacturing, but this week I'll be talking to a company that does precision drilling. They sell drilling as a service for oil fields. And of course they're hurting right now, but they spend $350 million a year to maintain their equipment. Now they've spent that much money to get the reliability, sort of like the Navy. I've got very high reliability, 99.99 whatever, 2%. That's not where the opportunity is, downtime. The opportunity is, how do I reduce that maintenance cost by, predicting things and telling you that things are being used more than not, and all sorts of different ways to reduce that spend on the other side. Because just 10% on that other side is huge money, right? That's free win.
How about utilities? How about transportation?
Oh yeah, all of them. I mean, anything. That's the beauty of maintenance too. People are like, well, what can you do maintenance on? I said, I don't really care what it is. It all works the same way. You got failure modes. Everything is sensorized these days. They talk about digital transformation. We don't need digital transformation. We need to utilize all the digital stuff we have out there. Do you know the last industrial revolution, they say, kind of ended at the end of 2009, 2010. Since then, when you look at the multi-factor productivity from the Bureau of Labor statistics, we've actually had negative numbers for the first time in 30 years because we have so much stuff out there, so much digital stuff, but it's not connected. It actually causes people to be less productive.
So what else? So Live Factory, a lot of predictive sensory generated data.
I think that a lot of things are going to be self-healing in the maintenance.
Let me actually go back. So 60 days ago, these 2 were hot products for you. Based on what you've seen in the last 60 days, any new markets you find exciting?
I think electric vehicles are going to be, I'm working at a company called Rivian Automotive right now.
Right.
And with the Amazon effect going in, they're going to buy 100,000 electric vehicles from them. Well, they want more of them now because they know that that's going to be the way of the world. And I really believe there's a whole new tech sector in managing the charging of them, the data from it. I really believe blockchain is going to come in. And not only that, but a lot of countries now are making the OEMs own the life cycle of those batteries. And they have 30-year life cycles. So the first life cycle after out of the vehicle can be used again and again. I think there's a large industry just on EVs. And if all the ones come in by 2025 or 2030, there'll be a lot of electric vehicles out there that need a whole new,
infrastructure, right?
Footprint. Yep.
How about AVs? You're excited about EVs. How about autonomous?
Yeah, absolutely. That's coming in too, right? That's right on top. That's right on the heels of the EVs as AVs for sure. I mean, the fidelity of the 5G networks, I think, will provide what they need to really mix GPS with the 5G and be able to have, the safety that we need.
So, you've been working a lot with SAP, but most of that has been on premise, right? I've heard from a number of executives in the last couple of weeks, their cloud applications made it a lot easier to move things to work from home. Are you seeing similar? Is this going to expedite people moving more to the public cloud?
I think so. I'm seeing a lot more very traditional Fortune 100 companies. I was amazed. I did a project recently with a company a lot of people have heard of for sure in agriculture. And I was amazed when I got there, the forward thinking, everything had to go in the cloud. Everything was going on a cloud-based system, even things that were traditionally a factory automation data going on the cloud. And that's not very common for IT. So I think that the cloud piece is starting to be pierced. And I know for my team, I have a team in Hyderabad of 20 developers, and they're all working from home and they're still developing. We delivered a live go live project with ultra wideband. We had installed the ultra wideband in a factory before the COVID hit. And we actually delivered it with SAP MI remotely live without us going there. I mean, that's an amazing event. And then I've kicked off some projects remotely too, using GoPro cameras and things like that. So we actually did deep dive, current state, future state maps remotely. It's a little challenging, but the cloud really helps, and all of the technology, right?
I talked to a CEO of a mid-tier ERP firm, and he said he closed 2 deals in March without stepping into the customer site even once. So we've seen some acrobatics even in the software industry that, and outsourcing. I mean, I'm starting to see people finally say we don't need to travel to customer sites, or customers won't let them travel to their sites. And I didn't think I would ever see that day.
Yep.
And it's happened so quickly. Yeah.
People, what we are doing too is looking at shipping cameras, saying, oh, you don't have GoPros? Here you go. We'll ship them to you. This is what we want you to do, and go around and look at the stuff. We'll ask you questions. And then, with the cloud-based stuff and being able to get into there, we don't really need to be there to develop it. I mean, I'm sorry, but your receiving process or your quality process or whatever, there's nothing special, right? It's just, how do you want to do it? And then we configure it, and then you try it. And
the resolution is good enough for what you're trying to do?
No, oh yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing, my team in India, how they've adapted. It's just unbelievable. And they're still delivering stuff. I mean, we're doing a POC right now for a customer with EWM. We're making it. So
Marty, I've been asking everybody, what do you, in your sector, in your focus area, do you see a sharp rebound as soon as we can travel and, do a bit more normal stuff? Do you see a slow back to growth? Do you see a W, kind of choppy up and down? Or do you see an L? It's going to be dead for a while.
I think it's going to be a W, and here's why. There's a lot of pent up demand out there. So once it gets released, there's going to be a big spike. Then that will settle down and drop down again in its election year. So everybody sits on their hands around election year because they don't know, what the next administration is going to do, just the fear of change and all that stuff. So I think those things combined, I see a W happening.
Not because we may have another flare up or because supply chains. No. Okay, so you're more.
I don't think so, because the more and more you look at the numbers, it's nowhere near what they thought it was. I think that they're finding that there's a lot of people that are asymptomatic that already have it. And so I think it could, you never know. This thing was so weird anyway, but people are going to get where they just, get immune to it. And if the numbers don't hit, I mean, you can't cry wolf, right? They locked down our economy over this. And I mean, for good reason, because we didn't know. But once the numbers come in and they start really seeing it's not where it is, people will ignore it. They will just take the risk, because that's what people do all day, every day, right?
Well, that's good to see, right? That's where the American spirit comes from. Is we're somewhat fearless, sometimes reckless, but it's good to see that fearless nature. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, just it's amazing. But I do believe that Industry 4.0 is going to be accelerated. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a bow wave of investment, sort of like at the end of the 1999, when they had Y2K stuff. And I think, the companies that are poised like us that have been on the kind of the bleeding edge, we're really going to benefit from it.
On 4.0, clearly Germany, Japan, China seem to have taken it a little more seriously, at least in the manufacturing sector. Do you see us as dedicated, as committed to that?
I think so. I'm seeing a lot more of it. I get a lot of calls. The SAP account execs are bringing us in. The stuff that we're talking about is resonating really well. We've just put some new videos out on our website. We redid our website, and we're getting a lot of interest. We're doing some Voice of America stuff coming up here soon called Tech Talk, and it's really driving people that are surprising me, the people that are talking to me that want to do this stuff. So, yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear, because the manufacturing sector has been underinvested. Right word, I guess, is underinvested. So
Yeah.
Good to see that happening. Well, thank you so much, Marty. Stay safe. I guess none of the restaurants in Charleston are open, so you haven't been enjoying that food. But maybe I can come visit you when things clear up.
Yeah, that'd be great, Vinny. It was nice talking to you again. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Yep. Bye-bye.